Today is the last day of Mrs. Wages week, and for this video we're going to be making some hot and spicy pickles. I've never made Mrs. Wages pickles before, but one thing that I did see with a lot of the videos is that they tend to come out a little bit not mushy, but not as crisp as one would like. So we're gonna make one slight deviation, and we're gonna put in pickle crisp. This stuff is supposed to help pickles stay crispy once they're canned. So we're gonna give this a try. I'm going to leave one of the jars without the pickle crisp in it. I'm gonna mark it so I know which one is which, and we can do a side-by-side comparison to see if pickle crisp actually does what it says it does. The recipe calls for between 9 and 11 pounds of pickles. I think I have maybe like 7. So I have the jars in that pot. They're already sterilized in the water bath canner, and I'm actually doing them in the wide mouth pint-sized jars because we don't go through a tremendous amount of canned pickles. I prefer fermented pickles. So those are usually what I'll reach for before I'll reach for something on the shelf, but it'll also be great to have it throughout the winter. We can use it on all different sorts of things. And if you couldn't tell already around here, we like things nice and spicy. So we need to cut up all of these. I'm choosing to slice all of these because that's just what I want to do. So we need to go ahead and get on that. What we need to do is remove this 1/16 of an inch from the blossom end of the cucumbers. That helps to remove an enzyme that is in that little section of the cucumber that will make it soften when it's in the jar. Another thing that's really important in order to keep these things nice and crunchy is ice water, or just ice. These cucumbers are also, my particular cucumbers are not necessarily the most desirable cucumbers. They have been sitting out for a while and I had to toss some of them, but we're still gonna go ahead and move forward with it. While the cucumbers are chilling in the ice water, we're gonna go ahead and warm up our brine. It calls for 7 1/3 cups of water, 3 1/3 cups of 5% acidity vinegar, and this handy little pouch. Turn the heat up, and it says bring mixture just to a boil over medium heat, stirring constantly until mixture dissolves, and then remove it from the heat. The brine is potent, I'll tell you what. And I just realized I boiled all that and forgot the vinegar. Now we're ready to go ahead and assemble all of our jars. I forgot the vinegar in the boiling pot, and that's a no-no around these parts. It's a very, very thick coating. And while that might be fine on the outside of the jar when you're canning it, not so much when you're sterilizing the jars. So, I need to wash my hands. And we're just gonna start loading up the jars with the pickles. That's about all you can really do. Loading them up, making sure I don't get any ice in there because I don't want to mess up the ratio. And a lot of these pickles are definitely larger than ideal, but it's what I got. Most people recommend using like the really small pickling cucumbers is what they call them. So we'll just try and fill it up as much as we can. Get it in all the little cracks and crevices. It's sad. Okay. Oh, almost forgot it. Okay. So this one, I'm gonna set it aside so I know that that's the one that does not have this in it. And we need 1/8 of a teaspoon per pint. So I don't know how many I'm gonna get out of this, so I'm just gonna fill up each one, one at a time. For these, we're gonna need a 1/2 inch of headspace. There we go. And we're just gonna go until we run out of pickles. Cucumbers. You know what I mean. I'm very surprised by this, but we actually had more than enough cucumbers to fill 1 canner load. So I'm just gonna stop at 1 canner load, and we are going to top each one of these jars off with the brine. And it does give you instructions if you do happen to run out of the brine. You're just gonna mix 50-50 water and vinegar. That's all there is to it. This leftover brine, I got an idea from Tululu Creates, and she uses her leftover pickle brine to pickle eggs. So I'm gonna hard boil some eggs later and throw them in the brine and just pop them in the fridge. I'm not gonna can them, but you know, after, I don't know, a few days, I'll just have some nice hot and spicy pickled eggs. So then we're just gonna go ahead and debubble kind of to the best of our abilities on these things. Make sure there's no little air pockets inside, just a hair short. And as always, we're gonna go ahead and top these off with our 4 jars canning lids. I've been using these since January of 2022, and I have not had a single failed seal. Not one. I highly encourage you guys to check them out. I'll put a link for them down below. You get free shipping on all orders over $50, and if you use the coupon code Fermented10, you'll get 10% off all the products in their store. So I hope you guys will check it out. You guys get awesome lids at a discounted price, and you support the channel at the same time. Let's get to topping these guys. I still have the no pickle crisp isolated over here so I don't get them mixed up. And you want to wipe the rims on all of them with a paper towel. You can either dip it in vinegar or water. I usually dip it in vinegar, but this recipe took every last drop of vinegar that I have. So we just got water today. I went ahead and washed up the lids that we're going to be using. I did not used to wash them. And then Heather over at the Needy Homesteader had encouraged me to and gave me the reasons as to why you want to wash your rings, even if they're brand new. Or your, pardon me, the flats. So I would encourage you to as well. I gotta go find a Sharpie so I can mark the one that's different. X marks the spot on the one without the pickle crisp in it, and I'm also gonna make sure to put it in the center of the pot just in case the water bath process removes this mark. It doesn't come off in a pressure canner, but I've never tried it in a water bath, so let's load this guy up. We got about 2 inches of water above the tops of all these jars. Just gonna put the lid on, crank the heat to high, and the processing time for this, since we used pints, is going to be 10 minutes. So once this gets up to a rolling boil, like total full-on boil, we're gonna set our timer for the appropriate amount of time. Pints are 10 minutes, quarts are 15 minutes, and that is for 0 to 1,000 feet elevation. For every 1,000 feet above that, you need to add a minute, wherever your location is. When the processing time is up, we're gonna take the lid off, turn off the heat, and walk away for at least 5 minutes, and then we can slowly start taking them out of the case. We're back and we're ready to give a taste test to our 2 different types of pickles. Remember, we did one without pickle crisp and the rest of them with pickle crisp. But first, if we haven't met before, hey, my name is Anna, and on this channel I like to share my obsession with gut healing, mainly through fermentation, but also through lots of healthy canning and gardening. And remember, this video is part of Mrs. Wages Week. Today is the last day of the collaboration, so you gotta get in and watch all of the different videos on the playlist. And comment on all the videos so you can be entered to win a Mrs. Wages gift basket that Tululu Creates is going to be giving away on her channel tomorrow. And be sure that you subscribe to all 6 of the other collaborators in this collaboration so you can get all different types of canning and cooking inspiration every day. Let's try the without first. I love that sound. Okay. Promising. Remember, it's only been a few days, so the crunch will definitely fade with time. It's actually got some heat to it. I like those. The packet says that it's ready to eat within 24 hours. Usually most pickle recipes that I've seen, you leave it set for like 2 weeks at least, but that's what the packet says. So let's go with the pickle crisp. Let's see if there's any noticeable difference. It's hard to say exactly. It's definitely not more crispy. It's either equal or maybe less crispy. I didn't expect that. Either way, this recipe is definitely delicious. It's got a pretty intense kind of mustardy heat to it. It's really good. If you like heat, you'll definitely like this. If you don't like heat, you might want to try one of the other options. I know there's like dill pickles, there's Polish pickles, there's like bread and butter, all sorts of other ones. If you enjoy at least a moderate amount of heat, this is definitely the recipe for you. Let me know if you've ever tried making this recipe or any of the other Mrs. Wage's pickles recipe. I would love to hear your opinions about them, as well as how long the crunch lasts in the long term. If you want to see another awesome Mrs. Wage's video, click this video right here and you can learn how to make a chili base so that you can make any kind of chili you want, anytime you want. Peace out, sauerkraut.